Hey guys, in this video, we are going to be chatting about the current state of the music festival industry and some of the changes we think we're going to see with large-scale events in the future. Hey guys, welcome to our channel. My name is Emma Capotis. I am the Director of Community and Culture here at Lunchbox. Our channel is aimed at creating entertaining and educational videos for the music festival and EDM community. So if you guys are new here, thank you for checking out our channel. Please consider subscribing by hitting the button down below, and you can also turn on the post notifications bell so you are notified every single time that we upload. You could also follow along with us on Instagram at It's the Lunchbox and at LunchboxFam on TikTok. So I'm gonna jump right into things. You guys are gonna hear from myself and two other team members in today's video as we discuss the current state of music festivals and some of the changes we think we're gonna see to festivals in the future to address the current health and safety concerns that have come up because of the current pandemic. As a lot of you already know, festival season 2020 has effectively been canceled due to the COVID pandemic in the United States and across the world. There's a lot of uncertainty surrounding music festivals for the second half of the year and abroad as well, as local government officials decide some of the rules and regulations that need to be in place for certain large-scale gatherings to come back. Because there currently isn't any vaccine that exists for COVID-19, it seems like a far stretch for festivals which gather tens of thousands of people together in one space to happen. I think the government and also event producers in a powerful position who need to decide whether or not these events can happen are trying to make the best decisions they can with the information that they currently have. As we all know, things are changing very quickly. It's very possible that in 2 months from now, things might look very different than they currently do right now. So with that being said, everything we talk about in this video is our best guess. We are all avid festival goers. We love this community more than anything. We would love to see all of these events come back, but we fully understand that people's health is of the utmost importance, and it doesn't make any sense for tons of people to gather together right now if it just isn't safe. Part of being in the music festival community is all about sharing these experiences, interacting with people, enjoying music, gathering together, and a lot of those things can't really happen right now given the current circumstances. So there is this whole aspect of festival culture that kind of comes into play. If you can't have those shared experiences with each other, it might not have the same impact that it normally would. Again, part of the experience is being in a tightly packed crowd. There's a lot of hugging that happens. There's different meetups at festivals, people flying in from all over the world. All of that right now doesn't seem to be the safest option, especially when there are certain travel restrictions right now in the United States and abroad. A lot of DJs can't even travel right now given those restrictions. So even if there were to be events, a lot of the lineups would be difficult to put together because people simply can't travel into certain states. So that's just a general overview of the current state of music festivals and some of the challenges that live event producers are facing. Again, a lot is up in the air right now, and there simply isn't one answer as to how to throw an event in the current climate. Next up, you are going to be hearing from Peyton and Tom. They are going to be talking about some of the changes we think we're going to see at music festivals post-COVID pandemic. Some of these things are starting to happen with other large-scale gatherings, not just music festivals, so we think that we might see these at events. But again, these are our best guesses. I can't stress that enough. So with that being said, I'm gonna let Peyton take it away.
What's up, Lunchbox fam? My name is Peyton Burlesford and I am the Creative Director at Lunchbox. Today, I'm coming to you to talk about some of the logistical changes and updates that we may see at music festivals that will affect your process as you want to enter the festival or even leave, get some refreshments, or just do something as simple as going to the bathroom. Let's get into it. So one thing that may affect you before you even walk out the door to go to the festival is that face masks are likely to be required for entry for any festival in the future. Face masks are an item that a lot of ravers and festival goers already bring with them, but it may be required to actually enter the festival just so that you can have it while you're in line, and also just to protect the health and safety of other festival goers and attendees. So even though it's an item that many of us already brought with us into festivals, it may now be something that's required if you want to even go enjoy and attend an event. event. Thinking about some other changes that we may see just as you enter a festival is that temperature checks may actually become the norm when you're trying to get through the gate. This would be done just to tell if festival attendees have any obvious symptoms before they even walk through the gate, so that way anybody who is potentially sick can be prevented from getting others sick at the event. One other change that you may experience is that you may begin seeing sanitizing misters actually used before you're allowed to enter. So this would just be kind of like walking through typical hydration misters that you might see at a festival on a hot day, except that they would have some sort of sanitizing or cleaning solution that would just help disinfect people on a more general level as they walk through the gate. So one other change that you may see is that your interactions with security or other vendor staff or even just general festival staff may change slightly. So as you're going through security, you may notice security guards doing less sort of pat downs and more of a reliance on things like metal detectors. As they're doing bag checks, you may notice that they're changing gloves more frequently so that they're not swapping germs from one bag to another. You may also notice that they might be using some sort of tongs or prodding stick to look through your bags instead of just using their actual hands. These would just be measures meant to help curb the spread of germs as people are bringing their belongings through the festival. You may also notice that there is more increased restrictions for vendors who are serving food. Again, more glove wearing, but also requiring masks if they're going to be preparing and serving any sort of food. So these may seem like small changes on the surface, but it may just affect your general interaction with any sort of staff that you encounter while at a festival. So talking about some of those interactions being different, specifically with vendors, you may also notice that they won't be receiving cash payments. This is just because cash can really easily carry and transfer germs as it's being handed from one person to another. So things like Apple Pay can already be used on your phone and have been implemented at some festivals already. You may also start to see another technology used with RFID bracelets. Many festival wristbands to actually scan you into the festivals use RFIDs, and they can often be loaded up with a credit card or some sort of other PayPal account, so that way you can just attach funds to that wristband and you don't even have to pull out a credit card or exchange cash with a vendor. And one last thing that you actually may notice while you're interacting with vendors or even art installations or other sort of information booths is that there may actually be lines painted or taped down on the ground to help keep festival attendees at least 6 feet apart while they're waiting in lines for things. So this may be interesting as it will actually make lines seem a lot longer than they typically are. You may need to see more space accommodated for those booths. Now, one thing that you may see just as you're generally milling about a festival is an increase in hand sanitizing stations. They'd want to keep these as spread out and you'd want to see them as often as you can, so that way you can constantly sanitize your hands, because there's just always things that you have to touch, whether it's going into your own bag or if you're using a hydration pack, having to use your own mouthpiece to get more water, and again, just even handling a water bottle or food. So they'd want to make sure that there are enough hand sanitizer stations around so that you can always find some and you don't have to go with dirty hands and again risk spreading that to other people. Now, the area that I saved to cover last is definitely none of our favorites, but it's the bathroom and porta potty situation. So here we may finally actually see an increase in general quality and experience, because festivals will most likely have to keep more soap and water available so that people can really thoroughly wash their hands once they get out of a porta potty or out of a restroom. So those little hand wash stations that you typically see will likely have to be refueled for soap and water throughout the day. And so this is something that festival attendees have wanted for a long time, and we really wish that it didn't take a virus to kind of implement this kind of change, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see festivals taking this area a lot more serious. So it's always hard to tell how many of these safety measures may be taken by festivals and other live events in the future, but these are some of our best guesses about how you could possibly see your logistics and kind of personal experience on the ground changing in terms of how you interact with the festival.
Hey Lunchbox fam, what's going on? Tom here, the founder of Lunchbox, and I wanted to kind of sit down today and talk a little bit about how the overall atmosphere of the festival world is changing. In the short term, we've already seen some really innovative event types pop up. We've seen digital festivals, we've seen drive-in events, we've seen smaller ticketed events that have digital audiences that are the primary driver of the event. And so we're already starting to see all this innovation around how do you throw an event. But for me, I've always gone to events because I'm a social butterfly. I go for the people, the places, and the shared memories. And that's kind of been taken away. So how do festival goers maintain that experience in the face of a pandemic? It's a really good question. which is why we need to look at some of the smaller events as a gateway to building up to bigger events to actually be thrown in the first place. Let's think about Okeechobee, for example, or Shambhala. The risk factor for these smaller size events is much less than a super spreader event that you might see at an EDC or ultra level. So when we kind of take a step back, we're almost expecting to see a rise in the amount of smaller but well-maintained event that can enforce all the things that Peyton's already talked about, and we're going to see a slow return for the Coachellas, the EDCs, and the Ultras, simply because on a risk-adjusted basis, it's really, really hard to throw an event like that. When we're actually at the festival, the whole behavior from the top down is going to change. Peyton's already kind of covered how we're expecting to see change within the in-person interactions. When it comes to that festival experience, the whole thing has become redefined, right? The way we actually go into events, the way we experience events. There's no more sharing a hydration nozzle, there's no more sharing chapstick, there's no more, hey, here you can have a piece of gum. All of a sudden, we've become really, really careful of maintain the face mask, maintain 6 feet of social distancing, and let's have a healthy event. Within that, we have to get more dependent on ourselves, which means we're gonna need to carry everything that we think we'll need in an event and have everything for ourselves so we don't have to rely on other people. Another thing that I think is going to be a really interesting shift in the festival world going forward are liability waivers built into tickets. So right now, COVID and the pandemic presents 2 major risks to festivals. Number 1 is the obvious, a super spreader event. On the other side of that, you've got PR. So now all of a sudden these bigger festivals are starting to think, okay, is it worth having the event? If 1,000 people get COVID, is it worth ruining my reputation? If 1,000 people get COVID, is it worth having that damage on the public health climate? These are all the questions that festival organizers are really starting to ask themselves because it's really, really difficult to throw an event right now. But the truth is, it's really, really hard as an organizer to justify it from the health standpoint and the PR standpoint, which is why it's going to take some time to get back to business as usual. Given the way that the coronavirus transmits, I would actually expect, and the team would expect, a drop in the amount of pavilions and tented stages that you're going to see because that's creating an indoor climate as opposed to outdoor stages where it becomes a little harder to transmit anything like COVID or some other bacterium or viral. Having indoor tents and having indoor pavilions is suddenly now a problem for organizers as well. Another casualty of the pandemic is going to be those hotel festivals and those cruise line festivals where they were cramming hundreds, if not thousands of patrons into one place just so they can have a good time. Let me tell you, they're a great, great time, but not in a pandemic where super spreaders are now room to room to room rather than just attendees in the crowd. So all of a sudden that deja vu overseas and these international festivals are suddenly a lot riskier because not only are you traveling and attracting an international crowd, but you're also putting them all in a confined space, which is kind of risky. It's the same with cruise lines, right? Even the friendships of the world are still putting thousands of people in a confined space, so we would expect to see a little bit of an ebbing away of these types of events in favor of these drive-ins and larger outdoor but well-dispersed festivals. One major consideration that's kind of a tough one to fix is outdoor camping. If any of you guys have been to a camping festival, you know that people are basically on top of each other, whether it's a Bonnaroo or Electric Forest, and don't get me wrong, it makes the experience one of the best parts of it, but all of a sudden I think we're going to start to see regulations within camping. And so all of a sudden those guidelines where, hey, put a tent here, I think those are going to be stricter than ever before. You're not going to see the tent next to tent, which is going to create a little bit of a dispersion of people in the outdoor space, especially for camping. It's important to also recognize the role of live streams and digital products in this new festival. All of a sudden, a venue that may have sold 1,000 tickets for $20 a pop might now only be selling 100 and then is live streaming the rest to an audience where then they're selling their $10 a ticket when they're just charging the 100 attendees possibly $100 a head. Finally, expect to see liability waivers in every ticket you buy over the next few years. There was already some waivers kind of built into that, but festivals are only going to be able to be thrown once they're 100% certain that even if an attendee gets COVID, the festival can't get sued. This is kind of one of those grim realities of the industry where they're just trying to figure out how do we make sure we throw an event with the least amount of risk present. Overall, the festival world is going to change. We're gonna see some type of events go out the window. We're gonna see some restrictions placed on what happens inside an event. We're gonna see the way that we interact at events change. And most of all, we're gonna see digital products come up and up and up and up, just mainly because there's nothing else to really sate that demand. It'll be interesting to see how we, the attendee, evolves with it. I think overall, the Lunchbox fam is looking forward to an interesting 2021 and beyond. Back to you, Emma.
All right, you guys, we hope you learned something today and enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. And again, consider subscribing to our channel if you guys are new here. And of course, we would love to hear from you. Please leave us a comment down below with your thoughts on this video and what you think the future of music festivals looks like. We would absolutely love to continue the conversation with you guys down there. Again, if you want to follow along with us on Instagram, it's the Lunchbox, and on TikTok, it's @LunchboxFam. And I think that's all we have from you today. We really appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.